On February 1st, when the military incident occurred in Myanmar, Joe Biden's administration immediately criticized the Myanmar military, and on the next day, February 2nd, the U.S. defined the military incident in Myanmar as a coup and warned the military with economic sanctions. Biden insisted that power should not rule over the will of the people or eradicate credible elections, which is very similar to his reaction to the time as Trump's supporters in the U.S. called for martial law. However, in the end, by criticizing Myanmar's military, Biden pushed Myanmar's military further to China. Because of this, if Myanmar's Belt and Road Initiative works smoothly with the CCP, the U.S. Asia-Pacific strategy to isolate China is more likely to fail. At the time, Biden said, "We will work with our partners in the region and the world to hold accountable those who seek to ruin democracy in Myanmar." But the neighboring countries didn't react at all. Thailand, Philippines, and Cambodia have resisted the move, calling it meddling in the internal affairs of Myanmar, while Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore have only raised the concerns. Vietnam, Brunei, and Laos showed no positions on this. And ASEAN stated in its statement that it is closely monitoring the situation in Myanmar. The United States, one of the strongest allies, Japan, also expressed the concern over Biden's decision, saying it could push Myanmar closer to China, and even South Korea expressed a deep concern about the political situation in Myanmar. Also, the UN Security Council, which was held to discuss the situation in Myanmar, but did not issue a statement condemning the coup because China and Russia opposed the intervention in Myanmar, citing the situation as their domestic problem. On February 11, only the European Union and the UK submitted a resolution to the UN Human Rights Council condemning the military coup in Myanmar. There were allegations of fraud in Myanmar's 2020 election, but in the process of resolving the allegations, the military used a violent method. And that violence has caused many Myanmar citizens to suffer and ask the world for help. When the coup took place on February 1st, Joe Biden's administration strongly criticized Myanmar's military and showed its willingness to solve the problem, so many people were interested. The world considered Myanmar's coup was the first diplomatic issue that Joe Biden has faced since taking office, and Joe Biden's diplomatic decision seems to have failed because the neighboring countries of Myanmar did not respond. In this situation, it is clear that the CCP is not afraid of Joe Biden's government at all. On February 1st, new Secretary of State Tony Blinken criticized China for failing to keep his promise with Hong Kong and urged it to provide shelter for refugees in Hong Kong. On February 2nd, one day after the coup in Myanmar and Antony Blinken's statement, China's top diplomat Yang Jiechi spoke about the new China-US relations and warned not to cross the red line.
For the past few years, the Trump administration adopted misguided policies against China, plunging the relationship into its most difficult period since the establishment of diplomatic ties. Some in the United States, sticking to Cold War thinking, perceived China as a threat. Their rhetoric and actions have interfered in China's internal affairs, undermined China's interests, and disrupted exchanges and mutually beneficial cooperation between the two sides. There have also been attempts to seek decoupling and a so-called new Cold War. Such moves, going against the trend of the times, have seriously damaged China-US relations as well as the fundamental interests of the two peoples. We believe that peace and development are still the prevailing trend of the times, and that peaceful coexistence and win-win cooperation remain the shared aspiration of all peoples. China calls for establishing a new type of international relations characterized by mutual respect, fairness, justice, and win-win cooperation, and for building a community with a shared future for mankind. This is both our vision and our guide for action. It must be pointed out that the 1.4 billion Chinese people wholeheartedly support the leadership of the Communist Party of China and they are rallying closely around the CPC and forging ahead on the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics, with great resolve and determination. No force could stop China's continuous development or the noble cause for global peace and development.
China never meddles in the internal affairs of the United States, including its elections. China never exports its development model or seeks ideological confrontation. China has no intention to challenge or replace the US position in the world, or to carve out a sphere of influence. Likewise, we expect the United States to honor its commitment under the 3 Sino-US joint communiques, strictly abide by the One China principle, and respect. The United States should stop interference in the affairs of Hong Kong, Tibet, and Xinjiang, which all matter to China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and stop attempts to hold back China's development by meddling in China's internal affairs. History and reality have shown time and again that these issues concern China's core interests, national dignity, as well as the sentiments of its 1.4 billion people. They constitute a red line that must not be crossed. Any trespassing would end up undermining China-US relations and the United States' own interests. We in China hope that the US side will fully understand the sensitivity of these issues and handle them with prudence so as to avoid disruption or damage to mutual trust and cooperation. Fourth, mutually beneficial cooperation ought to be broadened. As President Xi Jinping has pointed out on multiple occasions,
This man was the one who returned to China without having a proper debate with Pompeo. When he met with the Secretary of State Pompeo in Hawaii on June 17, 2020, he was heavily criticized by Pompeo and could not even properly contradict him. But now that the US president has changed, he is suddenly confident and is warning the United States not to cross the red line. It is now crystal clear that China is no longer afraid of the United States.
they constitute a red line that must not be crossed.
What do you think of this video? Thanks for watching, comments, likes, and sharing. Be safe.